everyone, welcome back to Barney and Homestead. I'm Sandy. Today I just wanted to do a little bit of showing you more of what it's like in the camper. The camper is a disaster right now. We've been busy in the garden and yesterday was a town day, and it just doesn't take long for a tiny house to get really dirty. More messy than anything. I want to bake bread today is what I want to do. I want to do some braided loaves. And I wanted to show you how I did that. But before I do, I have a bit of a cleanup because I don't have room on my counters. I've got too much clutter and too much mess happening. So to start with, we're going to do a bit of a cleanup. The kitchen needs to have the counters wiped, the dishes done, the dehydrator cleaned out and put away, all the clutter taken off. It's just really added up. Everything is just a bit of a mess. And today, being laundry day, is the day that I change the sheets on the bed as well. Usually on laundry day, I also like to give the bathroom a good scrubbing. I always like to keep the garbages emptied on a daily basis or every second day, just to prevent any odors. Living tiny isn't hard, but it does require a positive attitude. We've been in our RV now for 18 months, and if we didn't try to keep a positive attitude, it would be very easy to become discouraged. But we have a big project in front of us, and living in the RV this long was not what we intended. But it's been really good. We've learned an awful lot. Patience is one thing for sure. When we designed this RV, we wanted to make sure that it was actually livable in case we had to live in it for an extended time. We just both were impressed that that could actually happen to us. And so we just decided in the design to keep it as homey as we could. I really wanted it to feel like a log cabin. And you'll notice beside the bed, there's those end tables, and making the bed with those, pulling the blankets all the way up, is not so easy. So I just opted to fold my blankets down and tuck them in a little bit there, and it's just so much simpler to make my bed, and I can do it in minutes. It takes no time at all. And I try to make the bed every single day. It makes a huge difference. Otherwise, it takes up almost half the RV, and so half your RV is a mess if you don't make your bed. I always organize my laundry in the RV generally, and then just move it outside to the washer where it is. Normally I don't do a thorough clean before I make bread or do any baking, but today it was a bit of a spring clean day, and I just really wanted to get some built-on dirt off of things and just make things pretty again. If you're planning to live in an RV, make sure you put some pretty things in there that you love. I love lace curtains, and I really wanted our little RV to have an old feel to it. Not so modern. I'm just not into modern. And plus I love lace, and it's kind of a old-fashioned thing, but I really didn't care. And I love how they turned out in here. And our little couch, it is used a lot, and it gets surprisingly dirty. I always just often just take a damp rag and wipe it down, and a lot of dirt comes off it that way, and it just takes maybe half hour to give it a thorough dry. You're not going to be using the wood stove anymore for the summer months, and so I'm just tucking that little fan away and just giving everything a good clean. I have struggled with where to put my fruit because when the stove is going, I can't store anything up above there. That's just strictly for drying our hats and our mitts and stuff like that. But I thought this was going to make a great fruit basket and get everything up out of the way, and it did. I enjoyed that all summer. I guess the one thing I did that I really wanted was I wanted to make this little RV feel like a house. It looks like an RV on the outside, feels like an RV, you know, driving down the road. But when you're inside, it is super comfortable. I have all my cupboards set up for baking and cooking. So the only thing I struggle with is canning. I have canned in here, but it was a challenge to do that, and I don't like to regularly. I find even just giving the floor just a quick sweep, and I have a little mop, I just run over it. I didn't this day, but it just takes minutes, and the floor stays pretty clean. But Barney and I look around often at our little RV, at our little home, and we're very pleased with it. We've never looked at it and went, darn, we shouldn't have moved in here. We've never said that one time. It's our little house. And until our cabin is finished, this is home for us. The recipe I have for this bread is in a video that I did earlier, and I'll just put that link below for you. I always like to put my yeast and water mixture in the oven at a very low temperature. In this case, it's just the pilot light was going, and so it's just nice and warm in there. There's no cool drafts will get on it. If you'd like to see a small tour of our RV that we built, I'll put a link to that below. This bread recipe calls for the bread to be raised 3 times. I'm just showing the 1 time here. And then at the end, it'll just be it's the end of the 3rd time. For making braided loaves, I like to make some very small ones, just for Barney and I. They're very special to us, and I just make them like you would kind of a bun. You just cut them apart. And then these ones I roll, I put between my hands, and I make little rolls out of them. And I usually do, once you start doing it, you can feel if they're too large or some might be too small. So I've just taken little pieces off some of them. And I found in the end that I could probably make one extra little loaf if I took some of the pieces off, because they were a little bit too large. They were going to be too bigger than I wanted them to be. Nothing's perfect, and that's what I think is the beauty of baking. Is I always measure, but not when I'm doing bread loaves. I like them to be whatever size they turn out to be. I've tried weighing them to make them all exactly the same, and that's just a bit tedious. So I just enjoy the random sizes and shapes because they never turn out perfect. But I think there's beauty in that. So with these little braided loaves, you just take and make 2 cuts in them. Then I just carefully pull the little ends apart, and just as you would braid anything, I just braid the little bread pieces. And then at the end, I just tuck them under together and kind of squeeze them together to hold them in place so that once they start to rise, they won't undo. And just kind of reshape them to whatever suits your fancy. And I always use parchment because bread tends to stick. But it's just a repeated process for the rest of them. I just like to top them up with a little bit of olive oil. It just keeps them from drying out while they're rising. I'll leave them to raise while I'm making the other loaves. And pretty much I follow the exact same procedure. On this particular one, I cut them into 3 separate pieces, and that didn't work out. I ended up having to roll this one anyway, and then recut the 3 pieces exactly like I did the little loaves in it because that was a mistake to make 3. I find it way easier if you leave the top joined. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing and giving us a thumbs up. That always helps us a lot. And we just hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.